So Rory, I won't be able to.
Okay, Lou, it's okay.
All right. So with that, I want to introduce my Aunt Rory from Ventura, California. She's been doing quite a deal of work with vaccine distribution since the start of the pandemic. So perfect topic for, where Unity bands came from. We launched literally 3 days before the COVID vaccine became available to healthcare workers in December of 2020. So it was an interesting time where, morale was in the dumps and things were looking pretty bleak in December 2020. But Aunt Rory, I appreciate you doing this, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate what you do, John. It's very, very lovely. Started. So I just want to give you a little background. I graduated from Columbia University School of Nursing in 1974, and I worked until 1983. In 1983, I stopped working to raise our 2 children. I then returned to work in 2005 and retired in 2015. Those 10 years, I was employed at Ventura County Medical Center, and I worked in a clinic called the Academic Family Medical Clinic. The pandemic hit in 2020, and the vaccine was released in December of 2020, beginning of January 1921. The county was desperate for retired nurses to work, so I decided to help. Gavin Newsom, our governor, authorized funds to hire nurses for emergency employment, and the funds lasted about 2.5 years. Presently, COVID vaccine 19 treatments have transmitted to the commercial marketplace. So I retired for the second time. Actually, yeah, the second time. This is a good time to ask the first question. Does anyone know what year that song was released that we just heard from Pat Benatar?
1982.
Nope. Should I give him the right answer, John?
I'm also gonna put the link to. So we're gonna do a quiz. I'll also put a link to the quiz in the chat window.
Okay.
And my understanding is that whoever does the best on these answers is gonna get a prize.
Yeah. Okay. So just a brief background of the Ventura County Healthcare Agency is where I worked. It oversees a wide variety of divisions. It provides primary health and support services at 18 federally qualified health centers throughout Ventura County, including home care, healthcare for the homeless. The agency provides a wide range of comprehensive prenatal services, gynecological care, family planning, pediatrics, well child checkups, surgical services, orthopedics, and adult medicine. They also have an outpatient chemotherapy center. It serves as a major source of outpatient health for the county's indigent population and for county residents who do not have a primary doctor. There are 2 hospitals that are run by the agency, Ventura County Medical Center and the Santa Paula Hospital. The ER at Ventura County Medical Center is a designated trauma unit, which serves all of Ventura County. And on occasion, we'll hear helicopters, because they have a helicopter pad, flying in with patients or flying out with patients wherever they need to go. In addition, Ventura County Medical Center, in collaboration with UCLA Medical Center, has a family practice internship and residency program, which has been rated by U.S. News and World Report as #1 in the nation. And there is a new Ronald McDonald room, which is vital to pediatric oncology patients and their families. Question number 2. What was the first state in the nation to announce that COVID-19 be added to the list of required immunizations for school admissions? I was hired to work in public health in an area called South Oxnard. Oxnard is the largest city in Ventura County. Its residents are primarily Spanish-speaking. Many are farm workers and migrants. There were several centers, vaccine centers, all over the county. Some were in warehouses, they took over Babies R Us. They had at the fairground, they had huge places to have vaccine, and there's several of them all over. They had to be staffed quickly, so employers working in different areas of the county were recruited. So our staff included administration, IT, nurses, volunteer doctors from the California State Military Reserve, registration staff, paramedics, travel nurses, translators, and security guards. There were 2 nurses at each site whose sole job was to draw up vaccines. In the beginning, it was just Moderna, but then Pfizer and J&J were added. So we're talking about drawing up between 600 and 1,500 vaccines each day by 2 nurses. This leads me to my third question. By December of 2022, how many vaccines of COVID-19 were being administered? The answer is 13. So I just want to talk about right now a site called EZIZ. EZIZ. It's a wonderful website. It's a one-stop shop for immunization training and resources. Anything you want to know about vaccines, the CDC is at this site. It's truly a wonderful thing. I encourage you to visit it because it has a wealth of knowledge. It's where myself and my colleagues received a lot of our training, and it was just a wonderful site. So we can go to the slides now, John, so I can show you some of the things that were on.
Yeah, let's do this. We've got one of our interns on the call, Javon. Are you able to share the slides from your end?
Yes, let me just do that right now.
All right, thanks, Javon.
The slides are a little bit, what can I don't say complicated, but for a person who's not in the medical field, it might be a little bit hard to understand what they were, but to us, they were vital because we refer to them all the time to know which vaccine to give and the dosage and how to dilute it and this kind of thing.
Oh, wrong.
Okay, so here we have the product guide. This is from, if you can go up, as you can see, all the different kinds of vaccines we had. We had 6 months to 5 years from Moderna and then we had all these, how many doses there were in each vial. I can't, if we go up maybe. Okay. Well, I think you get the picture. And then we had the same thing for Pfizer, which were 6 or 7 more in Pfizer. And then we had Novavax, J&J. There you go. You see how we were diluting and mixing here. And then you have refrigerated thaw time. Each one was different. So it got to be complicated a little bit, but we learned it pretty quickly. And if you go up, yes. Keep going up, maybe. Well, I think we get the picture. There you go. Okay. Yes. And this was, yeah, these are all 13 there. Now, a lot of these have been discontinued, so we don't use those anymore, but just showing you what we were dealing with at the time. And Pfizer was the only one that needed to be diluted. Okay. Yes, those are that's 13 vaccines we just saw. 13 different vaccines. And here's a good one. This is the timing. So this is how a year ago, we were using this guide for the timing of vaccines. So we've referred to this quite often. After a while, you memorize it in your head because you did it so much. But as you can see, it's quite a few numbers and spacing and little details that was important to know. Okay. Great. Thank you so much. And I think the present schedule is coming up, and now we've dwindled it down to 6 vaccines. They've discontinued most of those then J&J is completely discontinued. Which brings up, I hope that didn't confuse people too much. Which brings up my fourth question. What were the 2 biggest problems we faced at the end of each day? The first one was waste, unfortunately. We were part of the CDC COVID-19 vaccination program, and part of the agreement required providers to report unused, spoiled, expired, or wasted doses. And reports had to be sent daily to the CDC. Because of the nature of the vaccine, waste was inevitable. Vaccines are very fragile solutions. They have short expiration dates. They are sensitive to temperature changes. Because of that, they lose their efficacy and they spoil very quickly. So once you opened a vial, it had to be used that day. And in the vial, there were maybe 10 doses. Depending on the vaccine you use, Pfizer had 6 doses. So if a patient came in at, say, 4:30 and they wanted a Moderna, and we had all the Moderna set out for the day, we would finish with the Moderna, and then say 4:45, someone came in and wanted a Moderna, we had to draw up 1, therefore 9 were wasted. So that was really sad in a way. Well, sad because there were people, we could have vaccinated many other people. The second biggest problem was the charting. Every single vaccine we gave, we had to be in the computer charted because it became now a part of the patient's medical record. So this is really, it was vital. So in the 2 years, we switched programs 3 different times on the computer, which made it a little confusing. So we had to learn a new program every time we switched. So when we made the transition, sometimes the charting got very confusing and things were deleted and so on. So at the end of the day, doses were drawn up, and at the end of the day, the doses that were drawn up, vaccines were given, had to jive. So the doses that we gave and the number in the computer had to jive. And that didn't happen a lot. So we had to figure out where the problem was. And when you're dealing with 13 vaccines, that was a little bit of an issue, and it got very, very time consuming, to say the least. But it was all about the numbers at the end, and that was really important because we had to, every day we had to report to the supervisor the waste, which ones we used, the temperatures in the refrigerators that we used. We had to keep accurate logs of all the temperatures in the refrigerators, so as not to, if the temperatures got too high or too low, an alarm went off, and the vaccines had to be switched to a different refrigerator, and it became quite messy a little bit. So there was one other population that I'd like to give a shout out to. We had a mobile team, which was part of backpack medicine in public health. And these nurses, with the aid of a paramedic, drove out to people's homes who were either disabled, they were housebound, they couldn't drive. So the nurses went out there and vaccinated them. Sometimes the nurses went to Point Mugu Naval Base and vaccinated maritime workers from all over the world, particularly the Ukraine. They were vaccinating many people there, and that presented a little bit of a language barrier because no one spoke that language. So we had to kind of use a little bit of sign language or get our point across. And then also charting on that became really difficult. Also, there were public health nurses on the mobile team who went to the river bottom where homeless people lived in tents, and they vaccinated those people. Charting on them was very difficult as well because they didn't have an address, and many of them didn't have IDs and things like that. But they did a fabulous job, and I really was happy they did that for us. Also, we had to account for their waste, which also got super complicated. My 5th question is what was the most common reaction that was observed right after the vaccination? And that was, number 1, fainting and anxiety. Every day, or maybe not every day, but I'd say maybe every couple of days, someone would faint. They'd have what's called a vasovagal reaction, where the parasympathetic kicks in and the vagal nerve gets stimulated, and they'd faint. So we put them in Trendelenburg position, monitored their blood pressure, and within a couple of minutes, they were fine. We gave them a snack, and they were fine. So, and after that happened, there were 3 reports that had to be filled out. Something called a VAERS report, which is a vaccine adverse reaction event, had to be filled out. An incident report had to be filled out, and also a report to public health had to be filled out. That took quite a bit of time. And my last question is, what was the most unusual animal that accompanied a patient to the clinic? A cockatiel, a ferret, or a bearded dragon? A gentleman walked in one day with a bearded dragon. Next day, he came back with his mother. That day, the bearded dragon was shedding. It was an interesting experience. But, and I do have some rather amusing stories that happened while I was vaccinating. By the way, 1 year I was vaccinating, and the next year I was drawing up vaccines. One day I was giving a woman a vaccine, and I asked her if she had any questions, and she turned to me and she said, "Are you inserting a chip? Are you injecting a chip?" And I said, "No, I'm not inserting a chip." She said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, I'm quite certain I am not inserting a chip." Another story I have is one day an elderly gentleman came in to get vaccinated, and I went to clean his arm with alcohol, the usual way we clean arms. And I noticed that he had a little Band-Aid on his arm. And I said to him, "Sir, I think I vaccinated you 3 or 4 months ago, and did you know that your Band-Aid was still there?" He said, "Oh, I guess it is."
All right,
another-
and Rory, your anecdote,
Excuse me?
your anecdote about the bearded dragon has generated a question in the chat.
Okay.
Doesn't the bearded dragon pose a threat of spreading zoonotic diseases?
Now that's a very interesting point I'd like to bring up. I said this to I said it to my coworkers. I said, I was reading about bearded dragons, and they have disease. She said, "Yeah, they do." I said, "I think we should report this to Hannah, our supervisor." She didn't seem to be concerned. And I said, "That's really interesting. I don't know what to say about that." Yeah. It was yeah.
It was a service animal.
It was a service animal. It had a leash. Yes, that's a very good question. Whoever
All right.
it is.
We
Yes.
also have a question coming from Mary Lou.
Okay. Mary Lou?
Yes. Hi, Rosemary.
Hello.
I have several questions for you.
Oh, good.
Let's go back to the charts because the charts were
Yes.
incredible. I did not know the complexity around the vaccine administration as far as ages and doses and all of that. Did you obviously didn't know the patient clientele coming in. The lines were just astronomical. Did you have to check that chart and draw up that vaccine for each patient that was presented to you at that time?
By the time we had 13 vaccines, we were well into over a year of vaccinating. So patients had, the clinic started getting smaller.
Okay.
Fewer and fewer people wanted to be vaccinated. So there were appointments and we knew who was coming in. But every day we did set aside certain vaccines. We drew them up because we had walk-ins. So yeah,
Right.
we've referred to the chart all the time. Sometimes we had consultations and I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is kids coming in. Which one do we give? Which one? So it was really sometimes difficult.
Right. Very intensive as far as,
Yeah.
yes. And so can you also speak a little bit to the kind of emotional impact, like the folks coming in for vaccine? Obviously, people were very frightened during that time.
Yes.
And so I imagine besides, just giving out the medication, you also had to act a little bit as, somebody who would allay their fears and be of comfort to them.
For the most part, I have to say most people were anxious to get vaccinated.
Okay.
And every time we gave a vaccination, we had to ask them about their allergies, certain conditions they had. And I heard time and again, when I asked them if they had any questions, they would say, well, I'm really afraid of needles. Is it's going to hurt? And, we said, well, you're getting a needle in your arm. It is going to be a little painful, but I don't like needles. And I said, well, I don't think anybody does, but that was the most thing. But as far as the children, some of the children were a little emotional, but their parents were there and it worked out. That was it was okay. We put the children in a separate room where we gave them, balloons and stickers and whatnot. But I have to say, the most fearful people were the men with tattoos, which really, I didn't get that. Sir, you're inked up from head to toe. Well, that's different. Like, okay.
Right.
Help me understand that one. I don't. Yeah. And this is very, very clean. This is sterile here. You're not getting infection of any sort.
Did you have to report all of the serial numbers of the vaccines?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. When we charted the serial number, the lot number, the expiration date, which arm went in, which arm it went in. Yes. All that had to be recorded.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
And my last question for you, considering how intensive this experience was, what did you do for self-care at the end of the day? Because it must have been emotionally draining.
Well, my dear husband would have dinner ready.
Oh.
And by the way, I just have one more important point. I didn't mention this. I want to leave everyone with the following thought. Please educate yourself on this. EZIZ is an excellent, excellent resource. And get the scientific-based studies and the highly researched facts on this disease and vaccine. If you don't, it's a disservice to the healthcare workers and professional researchers have gone above and beyond the line of duty to provide the best healthcare to the world. Think of that, to the world. I mean, it's unbelievable, really, when you think of what they did and the research and really, and EZIZ, it's a wonderful site. I can't, I trained on it. It's wonderful. And I know we have Mary Lou and my friend Kath out there who are also involved with this endeavor. And I want to thank them very much. And also John for doing a wonderful job on the Unity bands and providing these speakers. I hope I didn't confuse anyone and answered everyone's questions. It's a top. Yes.
And Rory, we have a question from somebody by the name of Louis Vigorita.
Oh, yes. I think I know him.
Rory, tell us about your manager's brilliant suggestion about the balloons and the children.
Oh, my manager, I like to bring in books for the children to read after the vaccine because they were constantly on their whatever. I just thought it was a great thing to do, or coloring. She said, "No, that's not a good idea." And I was like, "But may I ask why?" She said, "Well, how are these going to be sanitized?" I said, "Okay, it's fine." But they were allowing balloons. They gave the children balloons, which were bouncing on the floor. The kids were putting them in their mouths. And I thought, okay, we got a bearded dragon, and they got the balloons, and the kids up in the mouth, and all this and that. But what can I say? Sometimes you can't argue.
It could have been worse.
You can argue with the supervisor.
It could have been kazoos.
Could have been kazoos. I think the position was kind of fun because you got to deal with so many different kinds of people. And one gentleman came in and I asked him which vaccine he was getting. He said it, Pfizer. He said, "How do I know I'm getting Pfizer?" I said, "Well, it says Pfizer." He says, "Well, I would like to see the vial, and I would like to see you draw it up in front of me." I said, "Okay, that's fine." So I did, and I gave it to him. And it was okay.
All right. We have another question in the chat window. Given that COVID-19 was a zoonotic disease, what lessons have we learned about preventing the spread of diseases originating from animals?
Oof. Well, something that's pretty technical. I'm sorry. I can find out the answer to that, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
That's fair.
Is that fair?
If
Yep.
Daniel Whitney's online, he could answer that.
Here, Dan, we have a friend who's a virologist, and he would have known the answer. Dawn.
Sure.
I can get back to that person, though, who wants the answer.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Last call.
Okay.
All right. So
Thank you for attending, everybody. All my
Yeah.
friends and family, I appreciate the support. I do.
yeah, and
Keep-
Rory, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to not only prepare, but everything you've done since the beginning of the pandemic and doing this session.
It was fun. Thank you, John, for doing what you do. This is a very wonderful endeavor. It's very altruistic of you. You should be proud. We're proud of you for doing that.
Yeah, appreciate it. What I'll do for the group here is we usually take a quick a survey on, what do you guys think of these speaker sessions? What topics do you want to see in the future? A little bit earlier, I saw that like at least 3 or 4 people did the quiz. So I'll run the gonculator in the background after tonight, and we'll figure out who won the quiz, and we'll get back to you and we'll give out a prize.
Okay.
All right, everybody, live from Boca Raton. Have a great night.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
You, John, just a quick heads up. The Google form doesn't have this session in it yet. So you might want to update that real quick.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Steven. Yeah, we'll do.
Mhm.
All right. And I'm also going to stop recording so this doesn't go on for 3 hours.
I'll call Kathy right now.
Click 0, Rory.
Zero.
Great, honey.
Oh, 0. I don't know. I'm just throwing it off.
Of course you did great.
I didn't. I complete fool of myself.
Voting machine, please.
I'm calling Carlo.
A lot of people joined late. I don't know why. They must be doing the program.
You make complete fool of myself.
Great.
I'm really so nervous. All right, was it confusing, man? I mean, there was a lot of information. Now, who was that? I'm so. Yes, constantly. It was ridiculous. It was constantly.
You did great.
Okay. I feel bad. I couldn't answer that question at the end.
That you're supposed to, at that point, you say it's above my pay grade.
I don't know.
It was too technical. You say it's above
Yeah.
my pay grade.
The talk was not about that.
Okay.
It was about your experience as a nurse administering the vaccines. The talk was not about theology.
Okay.
Carol is correct. It wasn't
Thank you.
about that. That
Thank
was
you,
off the
sweetheart.
wall.
I love you.
And that question out of left field
Yes.
should not have been asked, okay?
Okay.
Now, my questions were right on target.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I like. Oh, thank you.
What was cooked you did when you got home? It was so cute. It was so
Put it on the speaker so I can hear.
Thank you so much for coming, man. I'm so happy you came. Okay. Okay. I'm good.
all right. I love
Okay. I'll talk to you soon. I love you.
Okay.
Bye bye.
You did great.
Thank you.
It was wonderful.
Oh,
Did I help at all?
yes, you did.
Okay, good.
Well, did I seem nervous?
No, you did fine.
No, you.
You seemed yourself. But I couldn't answer because of the echo.
I know.
But I think it was better that way. You were well prepared.
Okay.
Did you feel prepared?
Yes, I did.
Good. When you feel prepared, you're less nervous.
I wish more people understood what you shared, and thank you for all the time. Thanks.
I
Margaret.
wish what?
Margaret came. Thanks,
What'd she
Margaret.
say? She came late.
Awesome job. She did. Margaret came late.
Yeah, a lot of people
I learned quite a bit. Thank you. I wish more people understood what you shared, and thank you for all you did. Thanks, Morg. Oh, is it John?
Yeah, I have to figure out how to stop the recording.
Did you hear what I was saying?
Nah.
No, I was just talking about to my sister. How's the baby?
He's great. Yeah, he's great. Let me hold on. Let me see if I can end this recording here.
Oh, okay.
Stop recording. There we go.